All right, NFL draft fans, I am going to start doing as many of these as I can before the draft. I probably won't get to that many, but if I get 5 or 6 of these up on 5 or 6 of my favorite players that I maybe don't think are well understood by the public or something like that, I'm going to go for it. I probably won't go with the guys that I know everybody loves and thinks is great, like Marvin Harrison Jr. and stuff like that. Not that I don't think it's fun and fascinating to do content on those players, but I like to focus on the players that I tend to be higher on than most. Maybe I'll do one on some that I'm lower on than most. Those are usually less fun. I feel a little bad doing those sometimes for our content purposes, even though I think the coverage of them is important. But I'll try to focus on some of these guys that I just feel like I'm higher on than consensus. Try to basically make my pitch, make my argument for why I think so-and-so might be better than the consensus has them across other draft analysts. One of those players is Illinois defensive tackle Johnny Newton, who I was extremely intrigued by when I watched him in the regular season. And then as I got through his tape, I'm through 3 or 4 games now, and I think he's some of the best defensive tackle tape I've ever scouted. I've been doing this in some capacity since the 2014 draft. And so I would say my grading scale over the past 7 years or so probably has kind of been pretty consistent. And I think during that time, I would say Newton, I would have Quinnen Williams as my number 1 D tackle during that time, pre-draft obviously. And then honestly, Newton and Jalen Carter scored the same for me, and Newton scored higher in the categories that I value a little bit more, and he didn't have any of the off-the-field character stuff, at least that I know of right now, that Jalen Carter had, which he had effort concerns and concerns at Georgia, and he had concerns obviously with some of his off-the-field decision-making as well, and Newton doesn't have those things. So I would put Newton as the number 2 defensive tackle that I have graded, evaluated based on tape over the last, I think it's 7 years, maybe 8 years. I can't quite remember how long it's been, but I would say that's how highly I think of them. The number one thing you have to ask yourself when you're scouting players, any position, but if you're scouting and you're trying to figure out what is the best criteria with which to evaluate what the value this player will hold in the NFL is. I think that's evaluating players is something a lot of people are good at, but valuating players, like what actually matters at the position that I'm talking about, and can this player do those things? A lot of guys can have good college tape, but you have to ask yourself, what are the ways they win that are going to translate to the NFL, and is that going to translate in the areas that are most important for that position? And for defensive linemen, you have to win as pass rushers, you have to win behind the line of scrimmage, and you have to get off of blocks. To me, those are the 3 most important things that you can do as a defensive lineman. Can you win as a pass rusher? That can, these are general archetypes, right? These are big categories, right? Underneath these categories, they can win this way and not this way, or they can win this, and this way. That might make him an elite prospect. But the starting point is what matters most at defensive line positions. And people will throw around space eaters and guys who can hold a gap and all that kind of stuff. To me, that's like the floor content categories. You know what I mean? If you're talking about like, can you do those basic things? Okay, there's some value in that, but the most value are people who make plays behind the line of scrimmage. Do you have the traits to be able to do that? Do you have the traits to be able to do that on passing downs? Do you have the traits to be able to do it on rundowns? And then do you have the ability to get off of blocks? Because if you can get off of blocks, you can make plays away from your gap, and making plays away from your gap is what takes you from being just a decent, solid, reliable defensive lineman into a star defensive lineman is when you can do that. And to me, Johnny Newton checks all of those boxes for Illinois. So I don't know the order of the plays. I cut a bunch of plays, like a lot of them actually, and I don't know the order they're in. So we're all going to kind of find this out together. I put them all in the video maker and put them all into one clip, but I didn't actually check each play before I went live. So we're going to take a look at some of these plays together and check out what Johnny Newton's doing and why I like him so much. Here he is right here. It's kind of this is more like a 4-eye technique. These spaces for the Wisconsin offensive linemen, if you know anything about their scheme, are pretty massive. So he's sitting right here in this B gap, we'll call it, and watch this rush move that he makes. Okay, so I cut this clip. This is the first game I watched. I cut this clip when I didn't know. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't realize he was going to have like 500 reps. It was even better than this, like in terms of the execution, like that what ended up being the result of the play. But just the execution of this move. First of all, he's in half-man relationship right away. I love the stutter step here It's quick. It's not like a bunch of wasted movement, but it's quick. And then the violence of the hands, this is a cross chop basically into a swim. He can do the club into a swim too. It's nitpicking to say which is which, and some people may disagree. To me, like when the arm comes up like this and he chops down on the hands, I just call it a cross chop swim. And it's just completely clean. And this guy doesn't touch him. So right away, you're like, oh my, like the movement skills, but also the handwork, the violence, the physicality. You can watch the body of 74 when that happens. See how he's lunged over like that? That's the momentum of the hands, right? That Newton just created that torque, and then obviously the back comes over off the play fake and gets a shot on him. But I mean, when you can beat a guy that quickly, if you could do this consistently, you have tons of value in the NFL. It's that simple. You don't really need to overthink some of these things. If you do this consistently in a Power 5 conference against everybody that you play, you have tons of value in the NFL. Like, just to be able to beat blockers that quickly does not happen that often. Okay, I think he's here. Let's watch this play. Yeah. Okay, I mean, when you can throw a guy on the ground, like, sure, let's just do it, and that's the other thing with Newton. It's like, okay, he wins to the edge of a blocker at one of the highest levels I've ever seen a prospect win at. And his stats the last 2 years have been unbelievable. His pass rush production for an interior defensive lineman has been unbelievable. His sacks, his pressures, he's not, I don't know what more people want from a pass. We hardly ever see this. Guys do not come out of college as great pass rushers when they play every down on the interior defensive line. I mean, look at the last several years of the draft. I'm talking about going back to Quinnen Williams and some of these guys, because hardly any of these guys came into the NFL as great interior pass rushers. Even guys like Dexter Lawrence, and those guys learned that. They weren't great with that in college. So to see this kind of skill where you can go speed and quickness on the edge like we just saw, and then this type of speed to power right down the middle and just toss a guy out of your way, yeah, I mean, it's a factor. Here he is right here, kind of in the A gap, I think, on this play. And one of the things you'll love about him is his pad level. You always see him as kind of, I'm sorry, he's the wrong player there. He's over here doing crazy stuff. And again, the quickness, but also he's been described as stiff by some people. I'll talk about his pad level on one of the future plays because it shows it even better. But you can see it on a lot of these plays. But here he's again with the chop and the swim over the top and how clean it is. A little bit of contact here, though. 60 doesn't get beat quite as fast as the other guard did earlier. A little bit of contact right here. Is that going to bump him and keep him sliding this way? That's one of the questions. Like when these guys, what kind of balance do they have? What ability to redirect? And I like Byron Murphy a lot, but I would say that's one thing for him. Like some of this light contact as he was winning through a gap did tend to knock him over a few times. I questioned his balance a little bit and his ability to finish as a result of that balance. What I like here about Newton is that not only does that, he flips his hips around and gets right back on the track. So he's not really that linear. I see that said about him a lot. Like, oh, he's a little bit stiff. He's a little bit linear. Like he can't turn like some of these other guys. I don't think the tape indicates that at all. I mean, like at all. And I am going to kind of consistently show that throughout some of these reps. But this is pretty deadly stuff. I mean, think at how quick these wins are. And then the ability to redirect and get the hit on the quarterback too and affect the throw. I mean, it's really big time stuff when you watch him in that capacity. Here he is again. And again, when you can win on the edge of a blocker as a college interior offensive lineman, and I was like, oh, these splits are huge, so maybe he just has a ton of space to work with. But we're going to see this show up in all three of the games that I've cut for this video. But watch just the quickness. The stutter step again, and this time he doesn't clear quite as quickly initially. But you can see this one's more of a grab and a pull of the arm. And then look at this arm. See, he's pushing down here to create that torque that's going to keep 74 from being able to latch. He's controlling that arm. You can see this hand here holding that hand. This is just really high-level handwork, like to have their technique down like this. And then watch the way he corners, too. He could just get pushed up the arc here. That's what happens to a lot of these D tackles. They get pushed wide. But watch the way he gets his hips around and uses the arm, basically, to pull himself through here and create the hit. I mean, look at the line he's flattening on to get to the quarterback. That's not normal flexibility. I know this hit got him knocked out of the game. College football is stupid. But, yeah, I mean, you could see the hips and the ankles right here. For a guy who's 300-plus pounds, to be able to get through. Look at him. He's facing this way, and now all of a sudden hips are flipped, and he's still creating with this much speed, right? That's the key, right? It's not happening slowly. He's closing this fast to create that kind of contact, that kind of force. That's what's so amazing about him, is that like even when he changes direction, he doesn't lose speed at all. You just don't see that from many D tackles. I mean, he just ended that guy. I mean, it was awesome. Here he is. We got the yellow arrow on this one. I think this is one where his pad level is 1-0. Yeah. Okay, so he doesn't make this play. He doesn't really have anything to do with the stop. I highlighted this play just because this is what you consistently get from him in the run game. We've shown a bunch of really good pass plays and pass rushes so far from Newton, but this is what you get from him in the run game that's so amazing to me. He is almost always, on every single rep, locking out against his blocker, finding the ball, and then discarding his blocker. I mean, he threw a blocker on the ground 10 times every game. It was unbelievable to watch. And these aren't like, this is Power 5 ball. This is Big 10 ball. Like, these guys are legit. Like, a lot of these guys are going to play in the league. And this is Wisconsin. I mean, they have a proud tradition of offensive linemen. I don't know how good these guys individually are. I mean, he's throwing them around, so I'm not saying they're, all pros or anything, but like, watch his get off, stack, shed the block, get in pursuit, right? And this play's already over, basically, so you're not going to see like the elite hustle. But I just love that. Ball's away from you. He doesn't sit on his block at all. He's getting in here. He's locking out full extension. He's tossing the blocker aside, and he's getting a position where he can get in his pursuit. I think that stuff, even when the ball's away from you and you could just do whatever, the good habits that continue to show up technically, that stuff we'll see all over this clip that I'm about to show. Here's another one. This is a pass rush again. This is one of the ones where he turns the corner. It was better from this angle than the other one the end zone view gave me, actually, because somebody else got in the way in the end zone view. But I love this. The speed, first of all, the burst off the ball, right? Good first step. And then when he challenges right there on the edge, he's going to just rip and watch. Look at it's hard to tell from this high angle, but look at the lean right here in the hips and the ability to turn the corner and get hit on the quarterback as he throws. Those are just quick wins for a defensive tackle, man. To work to the edge of a player like this, you do not see D tackles turning the corner like this guy turns the corner all over his tape. It's really impressive stuff. Here he is as the 3 technique right here. Let this one run. Here's the pad level I talked about, and then get off the block, right? Throw a guy on the ground. It runs nowhere near his gap, right? But I just love the technique, right? You lock out. Look at him. Create drive. Look where his feet are when the play starts. And then look where they are when the play. Look, he's created push several yards into the backfield here. Now he's going to find the ball, toss the guy aside, get off the block. He just physically handles space and handles opponents very, very well. I mean, the first step is really good. The step into contact, the hand placement is good. The pad level, some of it's built in because he's not a tall defensive tackle. He's not a very long defensive tackle either, but my goodness, does he keep blockers off of his pads with the way he uses his length. If you're going to knock on him and say, hey, in the NFL, like it'll be harder because of the lack of length, I would be more inclined to believe that as an edge player, as an interior player. There could be occasions where that is true, but it isn't an issue for him in college. So I'm inclined to think it's not going to be the end of the world in the NFL either. But yeah, just a great technique. You could see low man wins. You could see the torque he's created here. He's got the lift, right? The shoulder pads are coming up on our boy there, and he just tosses them. I mean, he can't keep his balance. That's how much force he's throwing another guy with. And then he gets in pursuit, and obviously this play's over already. But yeah, just really good technique. Here he is as another like 4-eye basically over here. I love this stance, by the way. If people are going to compare him and Murphy all the time, I think, Dane Brugler, who I respect a lot, we were talking on Twitter earlier, he likes Murphy more. And I like Murphy a lot, so I'm probably not going to like disparage Murphy or anything when I talk about him. But I really just think that when Newton I think he's better, and I'll talk more about that. Some of the things that I've already described, I think, are just done at a higher level than Murphy. But one of the things that he has an advantage on is Illinois let him play like this staggered stance. He's always in this, like attack mode, get upfield, all this kind of stuff, and he plays He'll play in the B gaps a lot. He plays outside the tackle a little bit or head up on the tackle. Like he plays this 4-eye, or he'll play head up on the tackle at times. And so it's just like you get a really good sense for like how he is at attacking upfield, which is great. Murphy plays a lot more in the A gaps, and he plays more of a square stance pre-snap. So you're not always getting the staggered stance that Illinois defensive linemen play with. And I think because of that, we didn't always see Murphy look as explosive on tape. Now, Dane thinks he's more explosive on tape than Newton does, which surprised me. I just don't think – I think Murphy is very explosive. I just don't think Texas allowed him to play that way a lot. Texas is just – I'm not ripping on Texas. It's just for the NFL, like you don't play the same way a lot of time for a lot of these defensive linemen that you play in college. You play more of an aggressive upfield style because of how much the league is a passing league. And so it is a very different – it's a very different stance for a defensive lineman, and Newton's going to be really ready for that, where Murphy may have to adjust to that, but I think it's actually going to help him be a better pro in the NFL. So props to Murphy, too, because I really do like him as well. But, yeah, this is one where I think Newton really gets an advantage from being able to play the way that Illinois lets him play. I like this because it's a little counter move. Not many examples of counters in Newton's tape because he just hardly ever needed them. He almost always beat the guy in the first move. But here he is. He tries to cross the face, and this guard does a good job of mirroring and staying with him. Good punch, right? You can see it kind of stands Newton up at first a little bit there. And then seamless counter, right, as he's got the guard going back across his face with the swim, being able to win the edge. And then again, the corner. Like, he's not getting pushed up the arc. He's turning his whole body at 300-some pounds at full speed, and he's giving this guy a shot, and he gets hit by one of his own guys. Like, it's just a mess. And Newton is hitting. I mean, none of these. I haven't even shown you one sack. Like, these are all just like hard QB hits because of the force. I mean, the way he's winning, and then the speed at which he's changing angles from being pointed upfield to being pointed to the quarterback and delivering this hit. I mean, I'm going to play it one more time at full speed because I just think it's crazy, like that he can create this kind of force. Cross it back, and boom. Like he just is, and he's laying off some of these probably because he got more. Maybe that was later in the game he got tossed. This is Penn State now. Here he is right here playing some of that 4-eye, playing in the gap again. Oh, I love this one. I mean, this is run game stuff, right? Down blocks coming here. You have to feel this, right? So he's reading here. This guy pulls, so he knows down block could be coming here. He's ready for it. Gets across the face of the down block so they can't beat him. Gets all the way out here on the perimeter and chases this play out of bounds. This is just freakish stuff. Not only the movement skills, but it's the recognition, right? The ID the blocks. Understand the scheme, get outside the blocker, make a play in pursuit. I mean, it's just high-level stuff. Like, that isn't stuff you see every college defensive lineman be able to do, and he played up and down the line, so he's gotten used to seeing these combinations from different techniques as well, which is cool. But like, this isn't his assigned gap. He's just reading it. Like, he's not supposed to be out here necessarily by the play, but he's just reading what the scheme is and realizing he can beat it. Like, this guy's just trying to seal him off. He shouldn't be even a factor. There should be a simple block for this guy, but he's jumping it because he sees the pull, recognizes the block, and then the hand usage too. Watch. Snatches that outside arm, right? That guy's going to try and get leverage and lock out that outside arm, the tackle is, and watch Newton just snatch the arm, wins first contact, right? Who gets there first? Newton does. Hands on right now. The other guy's hand is right here. Not on yet. So he beats the tackle across his face with everything you want. Like, it's athleticism, it's quickness, it's burst, it's agility, but also just the recognition of the blocking concept and being able to get outside on this toss. It's elite stuff. I mean, he was able to pursue this play all the way to the sideline as a defensive tackle with this guy kind of like hanging on his jersey too. It's crazy. Okay, here's one at the goal line. Here he is right here. Again, it's like a 4-eye technique, basically. This is one. I only cut one of the plays because this video is going to be so long anyway because of how many plays I already did of him. But they had 3 plays near the goal line at Penn State. He won on every single rep. One, he was in the A gap for 2 of them, I think. And then for this is third down, I think, he moved out to the 4-eye. And first of all, look at the jump off the ball. Ball snap, jump off the ball. He's already upfield, right? All 3 of the plays down in the goal line, his get off was unbelievable. Catches this guard flush. Looking through him, driving him backwards, finding the ball, makes this tackle with one arm, gets in on this tackle with one arm, but he blows up the whole play, right? Like he blows up the whole thing. This guy can't cut back. Everything's blown up. All these run through lanes are available because of what he's doing here. This guy can't go anywhere, right? He wants to just bang it in here quick, but he can't because Newton's one across the face of this guy, and he's got his right arm free to help make the tackle here. And then these guys are all flowing down because he's eating up blockers. And he's also changed the angle of the play now. This has to go further out because of that. So now this guy has to stop his feet in the backfield. Everybody else can get there. What did I say at the beginning, right? You win as a pass rusher. We've already seen it. Can you make plays behind the line of scrimmage in the run game because of your quick first step, your power to reset the line of scrimmage? We've seen that on a couple of plays. Like he's doing all the valuable things consistently on tape. This is across 2 games now. That's high-end stuff. Okay, here he is on the left side. Sheesh. I mean, this guy has no chance. This guy I don't even think he's that bad when I watch him. I'm not like, this guy's unplayable. Like he looks like he moves. He has NFL size and agility and things like that. He just had no chance against Newton's technique this whole game. Cross chop, corner. Again, he cornered right. Didn't even finish on this one. If there's another knock on him, maybe it's missed tackles as well. Let me run that one back again. Yeah, I mean, when you can change angles like this, I'm sorry, dude. It's a real cheat code. But this one, cross chop here a little bit as he gets through, cross chop, then kind of rips under him. Honestly, yeah, it just literally just runs through his outside arm. Instead of getting pushed wide here, just the strength to be able to just run right through this contact and get to the quarterback, and then Allard kind of has to duck out of there. Pull it down, ducks through his tackle, literally here, ducks through his tackle, and then gets sacked by somebody else. So he just creates a sack for a teammate who hadn't won. That's all. Just incredibly valuable stuff. Because a lot of times interior guys, you are going to be, it's going to be easier for a quarterback to maybe escape or sidestep you, but like the fact that you can create and disrupt a play, that you can help other players on your team win, it's big time stuff. Here he is. Here is again as the 4-eye. This is a different play, by the way. This 4 guy. I mean, look at the force at which cross chop. I mean, he's 77's like has no shot. He's like tossing him out of the play. He's barely touching him. It's just the speed at which he moves. Like you're just not ready for it. Cross chop, swim, and then the corner too. Like look how tight he is when he corners. It's not like he's cornering way up here and running around behind the quarterback. That takes a little more time. It's still skill, but it takes more time. They have more chance to release, all of those things. I mean, the angle at which he's winning immediately. And look at the force at which he's arriving. He just sends the guy flying. He's a freak. Here he is here. Right down the middle, right? Let's go with the old-fashioned bull rush. This is in order of the game, by the way, I will say that. So, yeah, he's been hitting him on the outside all game. This guy's been overset a little bit. He's looking for that outside move, trying to get on his edge. He's kind of all the way out here. There's all the space in here. Nope, just going to go right down the middle on this rep. Throw you on the ground, get a hit on the quarterback again. Keep in mind, I haven't shown you a single sack. And he had 8 of them this year, I think. I don't think I've shown a single sack, have I? I don't think so. Where is he on this play? We'll find him because he'll be the guy, beating his offensive line. By the way, he's not actually playing with like a ton of juggernauts on this defense either. Like teams could key on him. Like obviously the moving him around helps some, but here he is again, 4-eye. Okay, so he's inside the tackle as a 300-pound man, right? Like he is inside the tackle, and he's gonna beat this dude on his edge. He's starting inside. Come on. He's turning it like 5 yards. This doesn't even make sense. I mean, the angles at which he's getting through contact. Look at him. This is just the old-fashioned grip it right out here, this snatch right with this left arm, and then rip under with the right arm. But he's just so strong. Look at the lean here. He's just so strong. He can just keep running through this contact and turn these corners without slowing down. He gets held here. I mean, you can see he's getting held that's restricting his ability to get there. But it's just, it's freakish stuff. I mean, he's inside the tackle. It's not the only time he did this, by the way, but he's inside the tackle, and he beats his tackle on his outside edge as a 300-pound dude. I mean, that's like Chris Jones type stuff. And obviously they're totally different builds, which makes Chris Jones even more freaky. But that's the level of difficulty we're talking about here. There's just not many guys doing that. I've just watched guys for a long time in college football as interior defensive linemen and not seen them be able to do that kind of stuff because they just don't have that kind of movement skills, that kind of agility. Here he is over here, I think. Yeah, I mean, how easily he discards guys. Like, it's just because everybody's knocking him as, his size, he's not that big. First of all, if you're 305 pounds? If you're 305 pounds, you're totally fine in today's NFL. Like, that's like probably above average weight for an interior defensive lineman. And he's just so compact and he's so strong in his pad levels. He's never going to lose the pad level battle. Like, that says something for you right there. And when your hand technique's this good, step toward the guy. He's reading. Look, he's finding the football. Just tosses him. Like, he's not even like a great positioner. He's not even like knock this guy back like he did other guys. But he's just like, won't be moved. And then he just tosses him on his face. Then this guy comes. Then, first of all, this puller isn't even supposed to get him. He's supposed to be down blocked here by this tackle. So he's taking a blocker that's meant for somebody else because of how well he's played it. Then he bounces off that guy, gets all the way out here in pursuit. It's like a minimal gain. I mean, it's just like, this is not stuff that your defensive tackle is supposed to be doing out here. Like, beating two blockers to get out here. It's freaky stuff. Let's see, where is he here? Oh, yeah, this is the one where he splits the double, I think. So not a lot of examples of him going up against doubles because of, playing a 4-eye. It's a little bit trickier. He doesn't play in the A gaps as much as Murphy does. So you won't see him necessarily, at least in the games I've watched. I haven't seen him like trying to handle a double that often, but I never saw any real negatives when he did have to. And this was one of the better positive plays. I promise I'll get to some mild negatives that I have with this game, but I honestly don't have many. So I wasn't going to pull clips like thinking, like trying to make something up. I don't see many negatives in his game. But here, double teams are like, can he handle against doubles? I like his technique of trying to get through them and split them because two guys, I mean, if he's always going to be lower than them, so it's going to make him hard to like uproot him because he isn't like as light as a Kalijah Kancey or something like that. He's always the low man too, but because he's so light, sometimes you can turn Kancey and stuff like that. But with Newton, you don't necessarily get that. So here he just kind of splits these guys. The shoulder turn is something, if you played high school ball and you were taking on doubles, they probably told you about the shoulder turn or the torque and get down to a knee, which is like Murphy does that a lot. But here he is trying to, so the double shoulder to shoulder here, and he just kind of turns so they don't have the surface area to hit him. And he's just going to kind of squeak through here and keep pushing. And so obviously these other guys do a good job, which helps as well. He's not going to be responsible for whether this play is successful or not anyway. But the fact that he's able to split it, these guys here do a good job of stopping him. But then he's able to split this and lean in. Look at him get that arm free right here. And he kind of like grabs him and helps make this tackle right there. So yeah, even the double team, he's taking the double team, several yards deep into the backfield here, beating them and helping make a tackle for a loss. So it's just like, I wanted to show at least one double because there are hardly any in the 3 or 4 games I've watched. So I wanted to give people an example of what one looked like, but that was one of the ones that I feel like he was actually run to his side. And like, it was just a good demonstration of how even that's going to be like a hard way to stop him because his pad level is so good and his block recognition is so good as well. I think he's over here. Where is he? Yeah. Again, I mean, this is all tape. I could have cut 20 more plays like this. I mean, at least. Low man, reads the block, right? Trying to reach him. Wins in his gap. Look at the arm extension. Look at the eyes. He's finding the football. Get off the block, right? It's one thing. So the low bar is, can he hold the gap? Done. Held the gap. Can he get off the block and make a play? Get off the block, make a play. Like, that is the type of stuff we're talking about. Like, we've seen the pass rush wins. We've seen the wins in the backfield. Now we know he can get off blocks, hold gaps, get off blocks, and make plays. Like, that's the kind of stuff that makes you a transcendent prospect, in my opinion. And I think that's it. So, yeah, I just think, I just think there's almost nothing that I would want a high-end defensive tackle prospect to do that Newton doesn't do at a very high level consistently across all the games that I've watched. Now, if I get more tape, I'll probably watch a couple more games and maybe I'll find some more negatives. I know Wisconsin and Penn State were two of his highest graded games of the year per PFF. I know that I think what was the other game I showed in here? Was also like a good graded game for him. Now, he hardly has any poorly graded games for PFF. Like over the last 2 years, he's one of the high. That's the other thing, the consistency. He's still only 21. The consistency's been amazing for the last 2 years. The pressures, the production as a pass rusher, the sack numbers. You don't get this stuff for interior defensive linemen in college football. So it's pretty special. And then when he went to the combine, I know he couldn't work out because of the foot injury, which I don't think is going to be like a long-term concern for him. But he couldn't do the workouts. I don't have any questions about his athletic ability. Like, he's clearly an unbelievable athlete for the position. There's no doubt about that to me. The questions I have really are just, I wouldn't even say I have questions. The questions others are going to have are, was his size too detrimental? Is he not big enough? Because he doesn't have this big wingspan. He's not Chris Jones build or something like that. I challenge you, like, look at the guys who are winning in today's NFL and even in the NFL over the past 10 years or so at defensive tackle, and how many of these guys are not that big a dude. Like, isn't Newton like 6'1"? I think he was like 6'1", 305 or close to 6'1", 305, something like that. And his arm length wasn't even that big of an issue either. So just look at how he uses his hands on tape. Like, find me the negative plays. I'd love to see him, but I don't see anything where his size is a detriment to him, and he actually shows unbelievable amounts of power and strength on like every single rep. So I'd just be very curious to hear what people's main concerns on him are, other than size, because if people keep saying that, I'm just going to keep saying, well, I just don't know where you're getting that, because like his measurables are totally fine. We just don't have any evidence that you have to be like 320 pounds to be a good defensive tackle in today's NFL. And we have some of the guys running around making plays that have this level of traits that aren't that size. So other than that, like, what are the arguments against him? Like, I feel hopefully this video, and if you watch more of his tape, has helped dispel some of the like flexibility concerns, which I find to be the most ironic criticism of him, considering he probably corners and turns and changes angles better than any defensive tackle I've ever scouted, to be honest. Even Quinnen would be more likely to just be bulldozing straight through your face than what this guy does. Newton just has that elite level footwork as a rusher. So I would just be curious to hear what the main concerns are. The one thing I would say on his tape, that this is kind of like really nitpicking, but I'm just trying to be objective so you guys don't think I'm just showing positives. Now, I didn't cut these plays because I don't know how big of a deal this is. But in situations where he was left unblocked, sometimes, now he learned from it as games went on, but he would fly upfield unblocked and kind of get caught like too far upfield, and they would be, whether it was a trap or a screen or something like that, he would kind of be like, oh crap, like now I have to, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. But come on, like we can just coach that out. Like, that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, there's just so many times in which he's doing the high end stuff for a defensive tackle prospect against every single opponent that I've watched, that it's just like, yeah, it's impossible to ignore. Like, I don't know what else you would want from a defensive tackle prospect on tape other than what Johnny Newton shows. So that's my thoughts on him. Hopefully some of you were swayed by the argument. If you're already on the Johnny Newton train, come join me. We will probably have him. We'll definitely have him top 10 on, I would be shocked if he's not top 10 on your boys board when it does finally drop, hopefully by the first week of April. So if you're in that boat with me, congrats. If you're not quite there, hopefully this video helped convince you. I'll try to keep doing more of these. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for checking out my first of the prospect videos for the 2024 NFL draft.